All right, we're back with more Heat in the Street with my friend, JJ Schickel, co-founder at Eve Partners. JJ, we just got off of this state of investment in final mile big and bulky space. What was one theme that really stood out with our conversation with John and Tom?
Well, first of all, it was a great panel. Thank you for having me, and you always do such a good job. So we covered a lot of ground. I've known Tom for many years. He and I worked together, and I've known John going back to the beginning of my time in the industry. So it was great reconnecting with those guys, and so really great panel. I would say the main thing is just the market's really seeming to heat up. You've got some firming up in the rates in the overall marketplace. There's some headwinds with regard to the big and bulky with the end markets of the housing starts, but overall, a lot of optimism, a lot of positivity, and a lot of capital to put to work in the industry.
Yeah, you mentioned, which we talked about at length, about $2 trillion plus. That's kind of this dry powder that's been on the sidelines, that's got to go to work. But one of the things that really stood out to me, one of your insights, was the expansion of the pool of international buyers that are entering the space. Tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing and why that's significant.
Yeah, it's I think it's a really important point with how people should think about their overall strategies. Eve had offices in London and Hong Kong. I've lived in both of those markets. And the one thing that being there is always super interesting. Foreign markets are extremely commercial. They're always extremely eager to learn how the U.S. markets are working. And in particular with the complexity of the tariff backdrops and just everything going on in the world, the U.S. customer is the best customer to have. So they're extremely resilient. They're tariff protected because if you're moving their freight, you're still going to move their freight even if it has to start at a different place because of a tariff. So I think there's more and more mobilization strategically to buy businesses, buy international strategics, to buy businesses that have U.S. customers. It's the best customer in the world to have.
It's just everything about America is the best. That's right. That's right.
Go America.
That's what I would say.
250. Let's go.
Now, one of the things that that you touched on, and I, echoed wholeheartedly, is just that not every private equity is created equal, and industry expertise really does matter. And so, sometimes I think business owners forget that this diligence goes both ways. They're vetting you just like you're vetting them.
Yep.
What are some questions that they could ask to help them understand, is this going to be a good partner? Are they going to help me advance in what I want to do in this industry?
Yeah, it's interesting. I started my career in the early 90s in technology. And what I think technology did extremely well was start aligning dollars with experts to interface with companies. Because if you were doing something in router space and your investor said, "What's a router?" that's going to be a problem. So I think the tech industry has always been really good at leading the way of the best way to be a sophisticated investor and partner to the companies. So I do think specialization matters. I do think having a team of advisors around that really understand and align, and then having a plan. I think the most important thing a company can do is have a plan to stress test that idea to see where and who it resonates with. Not every plan fits with every investor. Not every investor fits with every company. So I do think the more thoughtful you are with regard to your plan and the more committed you are to it, that conviction comes through and it'll lead you to the right partner.
So let's wrap with this. One prediction for 26, 27 M&A. What's out there that you think might shock some people?
Yeah, I think like the interest rate backdrop is a little bit interesting to me just because they're not directly correlated, but the interest rates do ultimately have an impact on a lot of the end markets of what the freight industry moves. So I am a little bit with the caveat of watching that, but I do think the amount of capital on the sidelines, $2 trillion, been sitting there for 3 years. There's a lot of pressure to put that money to work. So we're already seeing it. Great valuations, a lot of transaction activity. Things are heating up to be a very good 18-month run, I believe.
All right, that's going to do it for us for a little heat in the street. JJ, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Spencer.